Hey, Cata fam, welcome back to Not Working the Word. This is not the Working the Word podcast. You can clearly see some
Josh
differences
and
here.
Joni's comedy show.
Yeah, this is Josh and Joni. She entered. If you guys you've met me, I'm Josh Dunham. I'm one of the co-leaders of Working the Word. There's a reason I say co-leader, and this is the reason. If you want to give them the full introduction.
So I'm Joni Daniel. I co-lead Working the Word with Josh. Work on the tech team. Do a couple of other things. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm super excited to have you. You guys don't usually get the pleasure of getting to meet my partner, but Joni
I'm
is
behind the scenes.
Yep, she's the brains behind the operation. So Joni and I rotate the Working the Word group, and what we're actually doing here today, we're going to do like a midweek recap of the previous message, but what we're really doing, because we have an agenda here, is we want to give you guys a taste of small group.
If you haven't been, you need to check it out every Wednesday.
Yep.
30 minutes.
Yep.
Just 30 minutes.
That's huge. I'm glad you said that. It is only 30 minutes. But so what we've been doing every Wednesday, the production team and the worship team, I struggle not to say worship. My wife will punch me. Worship. The worship team and the tech team, they do small group. They separate. I want to say there's 5-6 groups. And what they actually have is, bam, a little template. This is not my Working the Word handy dandy notes. That's not what this is at all. Joni, you were in a totally separate group than I was. Do you want to kind of give them a breakdown of your experience and kind of jazz them up a little bit?
For small group? Or
not for our group. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
But
Yeah, so I was in Krista's group to begin with.
Love Krista.
And we really kind of became like this little unit. We were kind of sad when we had to move on to other groups. No offense to our new groups. We love you too. But we had just kind of become a unit where we could discuss things. And there were people that were really looking forward to it each week.
Yeah.
There was somebody who really just started like really digging in and bringing their notes and like getting prepared, so.
I think that's a big thing that people miss about church. It's not just Sunday morning fill-ups. We're not just here for a message. Small group's important because exactly what you just said, you get that feeling of community and unity, and it's a place where we can share where our walk is. And the cool thing is the Bible is such a cool, this is a vehicle. Like you see these questions, you'll see their questions. We're going to read them to you in a minute. But you see these questions, and it's a vehicle to jog your mind and start applying your faith to what's going on around you.
Right. And I don't know about you, but because we do work in the Word and we're always like the leader, for me, it was like a way to be able to receive and kind of relax and be able to just be present and fed yourself. And fed myself. Yeah.
Yeah. That's super important because a lot of times you and me are wearing so many hats, not that we don't get fed, but you got to take time to invest in that. And we say all that to say that that's an open invitation. I don't know if you guys knew that. This might be the announcement, but every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Come check it out. You can actually come in and there's no restrictions. You can just pick a group and join one.
We actually already have people that are like that have come in and we've integrated them into whatever group, let them pick or put them in a group, however. So we already have some people that are coming in. So you don't have to be on worship team or.
Yeah, you can just come check it out. Yeah. You're right. Absolutely. In fact, we've had some really intense real life issues. A good friend of mine, I won't call him out by name, but a good friend of mine came in and opened up about addiction. And, what's cool is we got to pray with him and talk with him. And there was this miraculous things just kind of lined up, and now they're at rehab. Like they found this program that opened up. It's I'll probably talk about in the addiction episode, and I'll 100% cry.
Yes.
But this kind of stuff's a vehicle for that.
Absolutely. In my original group, we even created a group chat where we check on each other throughout the week. Yeah. We'll send Bible verses, or if somebody has something to pray for, we'll do that. So, just kind of close and being a unit.
That community, when people tell you were 2 or more gathered in my name, that's church. And so people tell you oh man, I don't need a church. We could talk about God right here, right now. And yes, technically that's true, but this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about that really highlight why church is important. Because what happens is when you surround yourself by people who want to be used by God, God will use them. And we all go through things in our personal life, and then now God can speak to those things with the people around you.
I mean, literally one of our core values is if we're not growing, then we're not changing.
Yeah.
So, and this promotes that, and it promotes the growth.
Yeah.
It gives you a place to be safe and talk about things. And even if you have questions about the previous week's message, you might find your answer there. If you were confused about something. So
that's a good point that we didn't even talk about. We're over here I'm being an emotional tea, but you're right. That's one of those things where you can literally ask questions. That being said, so this one's different. Going forward, I think we'll be a little more succinct and jumped in, but this is kind of the pilot, right. The introduction of this.
Explaining what's going on.
Yeah, we're telling you why you're seeing my big fat face and my lovely friend Joni. So what we are going to do, if you guys didn't see the message last Sunday, you guys can find it. Where can they find it online? I know you just said it. It's so good.
That would be Facebook, right. YouTube, and IamCatalyst.net.
Oh, she got it so good. That was awesome. We had mush mouth when we were practicing.
Yeah, I had to practice.
Yeah. But yeah, so you can find it online. If you guys didn't see the message, Ben taught on David and Goliath, which everyone to a degree knows that story. But what I liked about Ben's message is it really highlighted David's mindset to be a giant killer, because he wasn't a giant killer from the rip. We talk about David like he's always King David or he's always a giant slayer, but he had to start somewhere.
Right. Yeah. I know in Working the Word, we discussed, the message. Yeah. And the biggest thing that everyone took away from it was that, he was the unlikely candidate. He had brothers that were more qualified, leaders of the army, bigger in stature. But really, if you go back and read, God set David up from the get-go. He literally gave him his slingshot. Like he was already defeating bears and lions with the slingshot. I mean, it goes in and it's really graphic at one point where he's talking about like he's grabbing these beasts by the jaw. So he was already building up his confidence, giving him the tools,
I'm not fighting a bear, bro. He's you gotta be confident to scrap with the bear.
Hey, if you're called, you might have to fight some bears.
That's true. I hope. Please don't call me to fight bears. I will. Please don't call me to fight bears. I've got a slingshot. It's just, it's got higher velocity. Okay. So that being said, I showed you these, not my handy dandy notes, but this is actually kind of the small group breakdown. And I think that what we're going to do is we're going to read you the recap because it's really good. And then there's questions. These are pointed questions designed to get at the heart of what we were talking about and get people talking about how it relates to them. And that's important because the point of the word is to apply it to your life and find those applicable messages that can help you grow in intimacy with the Lord in your life. And that's what we want. That's the point of these groups, for you to go, this is where I'm struggling in my life. How do I apply the word to that?
Exactly.
So since they're used to me being chubby and vocal,
you're going to give me a chance to speak?
I'm going to shut up and let you. Do you want to read this recap and then we'll start with some questions?
Let's get to it.
Okay.
All right. So the summary of last week's message, and again, if you haven't watched the message, it's available on Facebook, YouTube, and IamCatalyst.net.
Killed it. That's so good.
So this is the summary. Last week's message reminded us that God isn't searching for polished perfection. He's drawn to genuine hearts willing to trust him. When David faced Goliath, he didn't hide in fear like everyone else. He stepped out boldly, speaking faith and acting with confidence that God would come through. Just like David, we are called to confront the giants in our lives head on, not to shrink back into the hills of hesitation. When we move forward with courage and authenticity, boy, that's a mouthful.
I'm glad you read that, not me. I would have mucked up authenticity. I did it right that time, but if I was reading it, it'd have been awful.
Right. God shows up in ways that transform us and inspire those around us. So
I love that. And it perfectly encapsulate it, just like we said, that, David didn't start out as a king or a giant slayer. I've been watching Game of Thrones clips. That's why I said King Slayer. Giant slayer. Don't watch Game of Thrones. I don't know. That's not important. Anyways, so let's jump in these questions because I like these questions. I like the way they get discussion started.
Dig in deeper.
Yeah, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to read the question and let you talk some more because they're
Okay.
used to hearing me. I like that your voice is here.
I'm not sure that I'm,
She kills it. She leads the group every other Sunday. We share it. So if you guys have been coming to work in the Word, you've seen Joni, but I've been hiding this gem away. You guys had no idea that she was just as qualified to jump in here. Okay, I'm going to quit patting you on the back and we're going to jump into this. So the first question, dig deeper discussion question. Why do you think the Israelite army hid in the hills instead of confronting Goliath? So why do you think they were so timid and they hid in the hills instead of, he's like you said earlier, he was standing out there like, come at me, bro. What
Right.
what do you want?
Like, have you read the description of Goliath? Like, he's this giant guy with 125 pounds of armor. Let's think about that. That's like half of what I weigh. It's like a whole person worth of
like
armor.
Strapping a dude on your back and then wanting to scrap with everyone.
Right.
That is intimidating.
Like, I think he was like 9 feet tall. So most of the ceilings in your homes are 8 foot tall. So he was a whole nother foot bigger than that. So think about that.
He'd be fighting Shaq. Shaq's smaller than that.
Right. So, he was intimidating. He, just like most things in your life that you're going through that you fear, you shrink back from, it normally is something that you feel is just beyond you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
He was coming day after day after day to intimidate them. Like, I'm not going away. I'm going to keep coming and I want to destroy you.
Yeah. There's so many parallels to that too with our own. That's the thing. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're New Testament, Old Testament. There's always an application to exactly where we're at and what we're going through. And Goliath could represent things like addiction or poverty or depression or a sin that you can't conquer. Like, man, I'm struggling with lust. How do I beat this? That
absolutely
that can look like a giant.
You can go all the way to dieting.
Yeah, that's true. I need to. That Goliath's been.
Hey.
Yeah, this is the one day I didn't eat pizza before. I ate spaghetti and I'm still burping. Okay, so that was a good answer. Do you wanna flip it on me and catch me with one of these questions?
Let's see what we can get for you here. Let's see here. So Ben emphasized that God is not looking for perfection, but genuine heart. See, not perfection. You stumble on words. What does a genuine heart look like in everyday life, and how is that different from perfectionism?
So when we did this in practice, I sidestepped the first part. So I'm going to start there with what a genuine heart looks like. And I think that's a really good question. I think in our faith, because that's where we have to color this. That's the point of this, is to start applying our faith in our day to day. And I think a genuine heart is, there's no more pretenses. There's no more filters. It's your honest. I like what you said earlier. It's your honest position of heart. And when it's a genuine heart for God, you're not hiding who you are. You're not pretending. It's a genuine connection with you and God. And I think intimacy starts there.
Well, and I think a lot that was mentioned in the message too was about obedience, and we hate that word because it makes you feel like, oh God, what do I got to do?
Yeah.
You have to say 10 Hail Marys, because you stubbed your toe and said a cuss word and all the things that's what we think obedience is, right?
Yeah.
But obedience is literally that honest, intimate.
Yep.
So that when you come upon Goliath and you're like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
But then God's like, okay, well, we're going to start here.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
But without you taking that first step to admit that you don't even know where to get started.
I like that.
That's what obedience, intimacy,
that's applicable to so many things that I've seen here lately too. It really does start with a decision. It starts with literally just that decision. Okay, God. All right, here it is. Here's my heart. I'm going to follow you, and He'll do the rest. And all you have to do is keep walking. And that rubs up against perfectionism perfectly, because perfectionism, I always see that as like acts against faith. Like, if we were capable of being perfect, we wouldn't have needed a savior. And so thinking that, okay, now I'm saved. Okay, now I'm a Christian. So I should be able to not struggle with this sin or struggle with that problem anymore. It puts it leads to two things. Number one, you're putting too much pressure on yourself to be something you're not capable of being, right? You're taking out of God's hands, put it in your hands. Right. But then also it puts the emphasis on works and not grace. And so now you're trying to earn a salvation you've already got.
Right. It starts you also at step 10 instead of step 1. It implies that you already know everything or have everything that you need to even conquer whatever it is that you're going after.
Yeah.
And like you said, it makes it based on works. Like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And based on my strength. And don't get me wrong, there are bodybuilders out here. They're pretty strong and everything else. But they couldn't have picked up Goliath or defeated Goliath.
Yeah.
On their own. So
absolutely. I think another thing, and this isn't one of the questions, but it's something we were talking about earlier that I really like is that, and you brought it up, is that David was already equipped. You said that he already had the slingshot. He already had been slaying lions and bears. And so, but that sounds glorious, but that wasn't the day-to-day of what David was doing. Day-to-day, David was a shepherd. David was the youngest son, so in that culture, he was the least. Who knows what kind of inheritance he was even going to get? When they were talking about kings, David was in the backyard with the sheep.
Right.
Saul had to be like, what about that guy? Bring him to me, And so David was obedient where he was, and then when it was time to slay giants, all of those things that seemed innocuous and useless were the exact things
set up.
Yep. And I like that you highlighted that. It really got my brain jogging. So
yeah. Well, and then the thing about that as well is that when he did come upon, like, oh, I can step up for this assignment, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's like, what? No, you're not equipped. You can't defeat this guy and everything else. Like, but even with all the people discouraging him, because he had already had all that set up, because of his faith and his obedience and everything else, he was like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, I do.
He was with me when I was like going after lions and bears, which sounds like small in compared to Goliath, but still think about, I know.
Yeah, bear's pretty
like
metal,
we were
man.
talking about in practice. If a lion was in here, literally, I'm probably going to be like, I black out. I would be of no help.
Yeah.
So he was already being tested and set up and, and knew, I'm pretty sure even when he was dealing with the lions, he was probably like, okay, God, here's the lion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That act of faith, I promise you, I'm getting in the car. I don't trust my house cat. Let alone a lion.
It would eat me.
Hard pass. Okay. So
I go to the grocery store.
Yeah, there's a reason. I'm not fighting lions and bears, bro.
I grow vegetables. They don't bite.
So let's do another question, I think. What you guys can't see is there's actually 10 questions here, but we want to keep this bite-sized and palatable, so we're not gonna do all 10 questions. Although if you guys want that, we would be here for 2 hours. If you guys decide you want that or you want this to evolve into that or even bleed into work in the podcast, tell us, because this Absolutely. Really is that's the point of this, whether it's in class or whether it's on the podcast or our new midweek recap.
So about like once a month we get to do this and work in the Word, and it's like my favorite time when we can both be in there.
Yeah, me too. I love when we get to share our perspectives. Okay, let's jump on. I'm going to ask you a question because I'm talking too much. Let's see. I'm just going to wing it and pick one. Let's see. I like this one. It might be too personal. So if it's too personal, tell me to shut up and ask you a different question, but let's do it. David trusted God more than he trusted his own strength. How can you build that kind of trust when you face intimidating circumstances? And then there's a follow-up question. What spiritual practice can help you strengthen your confidence in God?
Okay. So it can apply to a lot of things. I would say I'm going to start with the second part, and then, so what practice? I would say praying. And I honestly believe that should be the first step. A lot of people are like, oh, you should pray. And it sounds so, I don't know, like you just don't, it's like something to say, you know?
People treat it like a platitude or like it's underwhelming, but there's power in it. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that like that can happen anywhere, and it can happen in any forum. Literally before we got started, I just was like, okay, give me the words, know, that I need. Give me what I need, and that's it. It's no like, get on your knees and, you know, it has to be in a quiet spot. It can be anywhere. It can be, you know, and it doesn't have to be formal.
I get. So you're saying
it's a
like
conversation,
even out and about, like in your day to day walking around
so
at Walmart.
I'm going through the drive-through. Me and Brooklyn had an experience not too long ago where we're going through the drive-through. We make our order. This lady was rude, and you know, I'll be honest. I was like,
about to be fighting some bears
today.
today.
I know that you're working at Wendy's and it might not be what you want to do, but what do I got to do with it when, you know, like, you know, I'm having all these like, and I'm like not really giving any grace, you know, and we get, and I'm like, okay, God, you know, keep my mouth in line. Yeah. Please keep my mouth in line. And then we get around and she's the only one there. Oh, yeah. She's taking the money. She's making the food. She's packing the food. And immediately, of course, I was immediately checked for like being a butt.
Humbling.
But I also was able to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Had you not prayed and just acted off the cuff, you would have demoralized her.
Oh, yeah. I would have got it there and did probably what 10 other people had already done to her during that breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But taking that time, like you said, in praying really gave you that, at least the moment of pause to be receptive to that. And that's what we're called to be. That's what we're called to do.
And again, it wasn't me saying, dear Heavenly Father, give me the strength to blah, blah, blah. It was just like, okay, God.
Yep. It was genuine.
Like, keep me in line because, you know.
I like that. I think being reverential is important, but on the same token, I think the crux of what you're saying, and I really love, that's why I like your point of view, is it's about the honesty and the intimacy. That's what he's really looking for. And for you to be in the moment of even something that might seem innocuous and small, having the wherewithal to go, hold on, before I lose my temper, let's take it to God. Right. You know, and I think that even runs back to a genuine heart.
Yes.
Honestly, I think it ties back into that.
It's just knowing that in my own strengths, I probably would have chose weakness in that moment. No, you know. Yeah. And we're faced with that in so many things in our lives, not just with anger. Yeah. You know, talk about parenting, you know. We could be here all day in that. Yeah. But, you know, there are times when we need to give grace and there's times when we need to be, you know, laying the smack down or there's whatever.
Times you got to be honest and have a hard conversation.
Right. Yeah. And there are things that are completely beyond us, you know, because we're trying to govern whole other human beings. Yeah. You know, and we don't know what's going on in their minds all the time and different things. Point. So it's again beyond our ability. Yeah. So a prayer, like one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was turn my children over and realize that I wasn't the best thing for my kids. You know? Yeah, that's a really good point. I like that. Okay, so your spiritual practice that can strengthen our confidence in God is prayer, and I would second that. I know every time I put my foot in my mouth, oddly enough, I don't know if it's just timing or if I'm just pissy in the morning, but I notice it's usually it doesn't happen often, but you know, if me and my wife get into a little spat, I feel like I'm in the shower and I'm like, was I an idiot? And then I'll pray, and then it feels like every time I go that route, there's that you know, I can't, you know, let me not promise that every time you pray that you're going to get that reconciliation in 10 minutes. But, you know, I feel like after I pray, I've got the discipline to go, all right, I apologize. I was wrong. I shouldn't have talked to you like that. And then something that could have been a day or two fight is a 20-minute, event that doesn't matter anymore. You know? Exactly. Well, and then I also feel like too, that the prayer is a setup. Like even if you're reading the word and you don't understand, you can pray about that. I agree with you so much. There's controversial things, because we're not at the capacity to understand everything, even though we would like to. Yeah. And recently with some heavy things I won't go into or whatever, with our church and people who were attending here and things like that. Yeah. Sometimes you get caught in those crosshairs of... That's a part of church. I'm glad you said that. Right. Really wanting to understand the whys. Yeah. And I'll say that here recently, I had to pray, about a specific scenario, because being friends with someone and then the current situation that happened, there's a lot of emotions, and I just didn't know how to attack it. And I prayed, and literally, sometime later I got God only knows. And I know that probably is like, okay, well, what does that do for you? Well, for me, it was like, oh, I don't have to know.
I like that.
He knows, and I trust him, and I trust, what he's going to do.
I feel like what you just said answers the first portion of the question too, because the first portion is, how can you build that kind of trust when you're facing an intimidating circumstance? And I think what you just said is so relevant too, because like when you get into like the letters Paul writes, the entire point is when you're in church with imperfect people, there's going to be imperfect situations, and you're going to rub up against that. And so learning to have grace and discipline will teach you not to react in that, so that you can still be that community. And that's important. So I'm actually really glad that that's the avenue you went with that answer, because this is church, and that's a really relevant question, or a really relevant topic that people don't like to touch, because it feels like gossip. It feels scary, and we don't want to gossip, but being willing to examine that and talk about it is important. And you're right. Everything should start with prayer. So your spiritual practice that strengthens that is prayer. It makes so much sense, and it really is where everything should start.
Right. And there's a reason that we're referred to as sheep.
Yeah.
And I know that it's hard to kind of relinquish and let go, and it feels like, let go of control in some scenarios, in a lot of scenarios.
Yeah.
But there's also great peace in being a sheep that needs a shepherd.
You're hitting on some high level stuff.
Yeah.
And I like it.
So,
you're right.
The God only knows that I got honestly brought me comfort and peace, and I was able to just leave it alone.
And walk.
And just be like, okay, well, that was for him to deal with. And I haven't thought twice.
That's beautiful. I'm glad that you were vulnerable enough to share that, because that's the kind of stuff that helps, because we're all going to face that to some degree. You're in church long enough, you're going to face that. So, man, that was a good answer. I like that. Here's the question. Do we want to do one more, or do we want to close?
Well, it's 2 minutes till 7, so. Okay,
we're going to. You know what that means? 2 minutes till we get to do this in group, which I'm ecstatic for, so you're right. So let's do this. You want to plug the group for me? Do you want to plug our Working the Word on Sundays? You want to give a little shout out for that?
Yeah, so we meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. And we do a version of this a little bit more in depth, though.
I think it's more similar to what we do on the podcast.
Yes.
Truthfully, it's just more personal in the moment.
There's historical context. There's, we actually read, the chapter in the Bible that's applicable to the message. And a lot of what people have said is that, it kind of gives them that deeper dive. So when they do go into service, that second service after working the Word, they're like, whoa, because they can relate to everything Ben's saying, because, they got to read the chapter in full and have time to digest and really receive.
That makes me happy. And you're right. And so if you do come to work in the Word, you're either going to see Joni's lovely face or me. And we would love to see you guys. And of course, this was an attempt at a shameless plug for small groups. So of course we want you to come 9 a.m. on Sunday, but
hey, small groups Wednesday, Working the Word on Sunday, just get plugged in somewhere. Yes. Hey, even if you're not ready for that and you just want to join a team. Hey, I've had a lot of experience in tech team.
Oh yeah.
Just getting to talk with people and have people that, check up on you and be like, hey, how's your week going? Yeah. So if you're not ready for this part yet, hey, come check out some of our teams too. Just get plugged in somewhere.
Yeah, I totally agree. You get plugged in, it feels like your church will stay
or even some of the other groups, women's group, men's group, couples group.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, that was awesome. Getting a rapport. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I'm really happy with this. You guys come join us. So we're going to
come see us.
Yep. Wednesday at 7, Sundays at 9. Join a team. We love you guys.
Yep. Love you. See ya.